Well, we are continuing our series this month, Awakening Joy, Awakening Grace. And I want to start today with story about Frank Caprio. He is a judge, was a judge. He recently passed away at the tender age of 88. He is known as the nicest judge in the world. And it's because of the way that he met people in his courtroom with dignity, with compassion, and with humor. Now, most of us would agree that courtrooms are probably a more hostile environment than they would be spiritual. I didn't know Judge Caprio. I didn't never heard of him until this week when I came across this story, but I think his story is a great example of what we're talking about today. Because he was able to bring into his business of being a judge of human actions, he was able to bring into that grace and joy. He demonstrated that we can choose how to bring and show grace in our lives, in our environment, bringing it into any and every interaction that we have, whether that's in our workplace, whether that's going to the grocery store and interacting there with folks, or maybe it's driving on the freeway, or it could be in some of those more difficult and challenging experiences that we have, like grief and diagnosis, dis-ease, conflict, things that are not comfortable that we experience. Can we bring grace, even joy, into those situations? Choosing to meet ourselves and others right where we are is a spiritual practice. It's not easy to meet someone right where they are when they are not in a good place, as it were, when they're having a challenge, perhaps with us or with someone else, or meeting them where they are. Our reaction is more likely, make it stop. I don't want to be involved in this. Why can't we just get along? But the spiritual practice is that idea of letting go, non-attachment, and being with what is without desiring to change it. Now, that's the definition of mindfulness, isn't it? The ability to be with what is without needing it to change. So my talk today is awakening joy. Awakening joy. And we know that joy is a byproduct of grace. So I want you to think about your interactions this week. Think about your interactions this week. Did you meet people where they were in the moment, in their upset, in their struggle, or maybe in their joy? Were you able to meet them where they were, or were we so involved in our own stuff that we couldn't appreciate their joy? Or were we so distracted by other things that we couldn't be present to their pain? Where were we this week when we were interacting with others? One of the beautiful things about being human is we always have this choice of how we show up, how we be, who we be in the world. We get to do that. And the Science of Mind teaching that we are in teaches us how to be better choosers. Are you a good chooser? Is that a word? We learn to be better choosers. It teaches us how to change our thinking from being negative to being more affirmative, from seeing the glass as half empty to having a different perspective on life and seeing things more affirmatively. We see things with more kindness. We see things with more compassion. It teaches us the values and the benefits of living an affirmative life. That's kind of the core message that Ernest talks about. Everything, even our prayer, is affirmative prayer, and his perspective of looking at life in a more affirmative way. This affirmation then spills over into the rest of our lives, doesn't it? Anybody ever just woken up and felt great and had a great day and just everything seemed to go right? Those happen once in a while, don't they? Yeah, and it just seems like everything's going really well. And learning to choose to live more affirmatively can make that a more reoccurring experience for us. It spills over in all of our decisions. It spills over into our relationships. It spills over into our health. It spills over into our finances. It spills over into everything that is our life when we look at it through that lens. Some call us Pollyanna. If it works, it works. This practice has been probably the most transforming for me since I started studying this 25 years ago. I used to have a pretty negative outlook. I was always looking at the worst case. I was always looking for the worst thing to happen, expecting the worst to happen because that's what I knew. That's what I was ready. Be prepared. Be ready for the unexpected. Be ready for the bad stuff. Save for that rainy day. Put it away. Remember 2 weeks ago, we were talking about my folks hid the good stuff, right? Got to be prepared for the bad because it's going to come. I was always waiting for that other shoe to drop, so to speak. And I find that this transformation of my thinking that's happened over these years has made me a little more skeptical of people who are negative. It's made me more skeptical of news and media and what I'm allowing into my mind. You know, we do music videos when we don't have a guest uh, singer on Sunday mornings here. And I've been fascinated in these last recent months to discover how much of it is no longer real. They're not videos of the real singers. I've watched some beautiful duets lately. And as I watch, I begin to go, that's not quite right. It is not the two famous singers that we know. They're AI generated models. Is that the right word? For them. The skin texture is not right. The emotions are not quite right. The bodies are not quite right. And it's disappointing. It's sad. The video or the song we have today is a wonderful message, but it has a video, and I asked Joe not to show the video because it's so bad. It's all AI generated. And what bothered me the most, that I don't want to bother you when you hear the music and be distracted by, is that the facial expressions did not match the grief that they were sharing. It's so sad. And you're just like, that's not right. Did you notice that? You didn't even look at it. Good for you. Don't put yourself through that. But that was what was off in it, was that emotion was not right. So it's important that we pay attention, particularly in this day and age, and we're probably always, to what we're allowing in to our minds, what we are believing. I find myself giving myself the benefit of the doubt. I find myself giving others the benefit of the doubt, being a little more graceful in my interactions with others. I find through making affirmative choices that my life has more grace and more happiness and more joy in it by choosing up to live affirmatively. And as I said, one of the natural byproducts of grace is joy. Because when I recognize God, Spirit, in my life, and I recognize God's action and activity in my life, that builds my faith, that makes me happy, that brings my joy up to the surface. I was talking with a friend in Southern California this weekend, And she shared with me an event that had happened at one of our larger centers over in Southern California on Friday evening. They had a gathering and a panel of about a half a dozen of our very senior ministers in that area that have been teaching Science of Mind for 30 or 40 years and been practicing, successful pulpit ministers. So a lot of experience there on the platform. And they were taking Q&A from the audience, and one of the questions that was asked was, what can I do as a spiritual person to help the world today? What can I do? And they all thought for a moment, and almost, no, not almost, but the unanimous answer that they came up with was live a happy life. Live a happy life. Our happy life will help the world. Now, why would all of that experience and all these years of teaching and studying this collectively say live a happy life is what we need to do for the world today? I believe it's because they understand the oneness that we are. We are one conscious being. And it's sort of like that pond we talk about sometimes, the pond of consciousness, and that can be ripples on that, and our energy ripples out across the entire pond. And so when I stand here and I am living a happy life, that impacts everyone around me. And if those people all live a happy life, it impacts everyone around them. And you can see that continues to go out and out and out into the world. Because we're not alone in consciousness. We are one in consciousness. There's I believe, Hindu story about Indra's net. It's like a big spider web example of the universe. And on it, at every connection, is a jewel. And every jewel reflects every other jewel. So when there's movement in one jewel, all the other jewels sparkle and reflect that. And if one of those jewels goes out and goes dark, the others dim a bit. And they brighten and dim with each other because they are one in that consciousness. And that, I believe, is what this panel of esteemed ministers and practitioners of this teaching were saying, that our work in the world today is to live a happy life and to not contribute to the unhappiness, to not contribute to the fear, to not contribute to the complaining and the judgment and so forth. So live a happy life. Sounds like good advice, doesn't it? Yeah. Are you familiar with the Dalai Lama? Kind of a happy guy. He says the purpose of our lives is to be happy. Well, there you go. Another wise one. He, like the Science of Mind, teaches that true joy comes from within. He says from inner discipline and compassion. Inner discipline and compassion. Joy is not the result of outer circumstances. Joy comes from within. When we can develop that discipline and calmness of our mind, that idea of being present and meeting folks where they are. The Dalai Lama also said, as long as there is a lack of inner discipline that brings calmness of mind, no matter what external facilities or conditions you have, they will never give you the feeling of joy and happiness that you're seeking. We simply cannot get it outside of ourselves. This is because happiness and joy come from within. When we give our power to something external to make us happy, we also give it the power to make us unhappy, don't we? So it comes from within us. That's where it lives. It's not what happens to us, it's how we deal with it. We've all heard that. But to truly embody that idea and to recognize that there's so much going on, particularly in the world today. There's so much to get. I've gotten hooked on the headlines this week and last week. I mentioned last week And it's happened again this week, and I just sometimes shake my head. But I have to realize that that is all external stuff, and I have to come back to center. I have to come back to present. I have to come back to live a happy life and allow that to continue to ripple out. It's unfortunate that most of us have been taught all of our lives to seek joy outside of ourselves. The seeking of external joy is the root of all addiction, because we're seeking something outside of ourselves to take into our body, to buy, to shop, to drink, to snort, to whatever, to change how we feel, to make us feel better. And we do until it's gone, and then we don't feel good again. So we have to go back external and do this thing again. So finding joy from the inside is what our work is. The world is constantly telling us that joy comes after something, after we reach the goal, then we'll be happy. How many stories have you heard about people who had some big goal and they worked and they sacrificed and they did all this stuff to get there, and they get there and they go, huh, well, that's not what I thought it would be. So now there's another goal, because the joy wasn't in the journey of that. After we get the relationship to work, then I'll be happy. After the finances improve, then I'll be happy. After my body heals, then I'll be happy. Sound familiar? What if we faced each of these situations with joy in advance? Joy in advance. What if we set the idea for the goal, but we are intentional and aware and present for every step of the way to getting there, finding joy in advance of it, joy in the journey? What if we find joy in walking the path of building that relationship every day and recognizing the joy in every step of that, of getting to know the person, of learning about new things and situations and opportunities for growth and expansion with that person? What if we found joy every day? What if we found joy in our finances every day through gratitude for what we have and what is coming and expanding? What if we rang that bell in the lobby of every cancer center before we went in for the first treatment? Not waiting till we come out after having gone through that process to ring the bell in celebration that it's over, but to ring it on our way in and say, yes, I celebrate my healing because I accepted and enjoy today. What if we set it up that way? Radical thinking, right? Joy does not wait for the conditions to align. Joy is the condition that aligns everything else. When we come at life joyfully, things are attracted to that energy and align up for us. Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from, and he says happiness and joy are the normal and natural state of being for the soul that knows its unity in God. It's oneness. The second step of our affirmative prayer treatment is unification, unity in the divine. And from that, happiness and joy are the natural state of being. This is similar to what Jesus taught when he said, seek first the kingdom and all else will be added. And I love this teaching because I've experienced it many times in my life that when I get right with God, life gets right with me. Excuse me. When I remember to pray first. How many times do we forget to pray? We start dealing with the situation, we get wound up, and the next thing you know, we're trying to fix it and we've never said a prayer about it. Take time to meditate for clarity. Out of the confusion, be still. Ask the question in silence. Expect the answer to come. This is how I get right with God. I check out of the high-tech buzz of life, and I use these low-tech, high-quality tools of spiritual practices that we teach to get right with God, to remember my divine nature, and to allow Spirit space in my life, to hear that small, still voice whispering to me. When we can unplug from the noise, we can hear that whisper. We no longer ask, how can I be joyful in times like these? How can I be joyful? Reverend Jill, please. You're asking me to be joyful in times like these when the world is so upside down. Instead, we begin to see that our sense of joy is how we meet whatever is going on, that we are present to it. We meet it where it is. And we begin to accept and know that infinite intelligence, that something that's greater than we are, that power and presence, as Ernest says, that is in the universe that we can use. We begin to know that. And we begin to know that whatever is in perfect order, that the action is right, and that even though I don't understand it, Lord knows I don't understand a lot of it today, but somehow, some way it's for us. And I just have to trust and have faith. Because again, when I'm right with God, life is right with me. And I believe the same is true for you as well. So let's look at some spiritual practices for this week for awakening joy. It's a pretty simple practice, and it's one that's going to build for you. And it's 7 days starting tomorrow. I want you to pick one thing, first thing in the morning, that you feel joy about. Now, it may be your cup of coffee, and that's just fine, or your tea, or your chai, or whatever that is. That may be as far as you get, and that's great. Maybe it's your hot shower. That's fine, but just find something that you feel joy for. Second day, find two things. Two things that you feel joy for. It can be the same one from yesterday and a new one for today, or you can pick two new ones. And let that build every day through next Sunday morning when you wake up. 7 things that you feel joy for. And notice if you see and feel and experience more joy in your life. If in fact joy expands, if in fact that spark of joy within you, that ember that is there in all of us, is fanned a little brighter, a little bolder, a little warmer. Joy starts as that small spark within each of us. We're born with it. We're born with it. Little babies are usually pretty happy. They have those smiles for no reason, big toothless grins. And I wonder sometimes, what's going on in there? Sometimes it's gas, sometimes it's not. But it looks like joy. So it starts small and it grows, and then we can shine our light out into the world, doing our part to live a happy life. So this week, I invite you to go out and live a happy life. Can you do that? Yes. Let's close for another quote from the Dalai Lama. He says, the ultimate source of happiness is a mental feeling of joy. A mental feeling of joy. So let's embody that. All right. So I will open it up if there's any comments or questions this morning. If anyone has anything they'd like to share or talk about grace or joy. I do need to put you on the mic so the folks at home can hear you.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you think there's a distinction between the vibration of happiness and joy.
Yes, thank you for that. The Dalai Lama, actually, I was reading some of his stuff, and I kind of agree with this, that happiness is more of that external stuff, and joy is the internal flame that is always there. Even in it's like the eye of the hurricane or the storm, it's always there, no matter what's fluffing around us. Happiness can sort of come and go, but joy is always with us. I think that's the difference in the vibration, much higher vibration of joy than happiness. Thank you for that. Daniel.
So what this message spoke to me about was intention and about choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happiness is a choice. And yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And Holmes, Buddha, take your pick, always says that we are in choice of how we want to feel and how we want to move through the world. So thank you for the message.
Thank you. Exactly. Anyone else? That sign is not always there every Sunday. Well, it was funny this morning as I was getting ready for them to come up here. I just looked around and I've got a Buddha picture and two little signs on my office wall, and that's one of the signs. I went, oh well, that's perfect. I'm going to take that in this morning. So, and she got it. Good. All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your sharing. And let's anchor this in prayer. Would you join me? How good it is that we come together in spiritual community on these Sunday mornings to gather and share, to receive all that we receive here, as we recognize that there is only one power, one life, one infinite source, that which we call God, Spirit, universal energy, presence, life. We know that it is that which is the source of all, that there's only one substance, that it is infinite love, unconditioned, pressed down to overflowing, and that love that it is creates of itself, and all of its expressions are infused with that love, that creativity and wisdom. And I know that I am an expression of that. And I know that each of us gathered here this morning, in person, online, those joining us later when we rebroadcast these talks, these messages, that there's no separation, there's only oneness. For we are one in the one, whole, perfect, and complete in this manifestation, uniquely individualized, yet all whole, perfect, and complete in one mind. And so I speak my word for each of us this morning, knowing that we each have that spark of joy within us, and that we are at choice to show up as joy, as happiness, and to live this happy life, and to touch others with that joy and happiness, and to see the world begin to shift, those closest to us, and then their friends and families and friends and families and so forth and so on, until there is joy all around. That we consciously meet each other exactly where we are, being present to each other, recognizing that that's part of our connection. So this week, I know for each and every one of us that there is joy in our lives, and that as we wake up and we pick that one thing or those two things or five things or seven things that we're grateful for, where joy shows up, that becomes a magnet in our life for more joy, for that spark to become a flame, to become a light, that we begin shining forth in the world. So this morning, I know for anyone that has anything on their heart that they are seeking prayer for, any question, confusion, challenge, that as they bring that to mind, that we lift that in this consciousness of this prayer, knowing that whatever needs to be clarified or healed or revealed is done so in this moment. And it is with joy and gratitude for the manifestation of this prayer, for the joy that we are, that I release this into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done, for the word spoken is the word made manifest. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.